Okay, so we briefly touched on it a moment ago, but I just wanted to go into it a bit deeper. The aspect of preparation work from the point of view of the musician. Um, Now, how can you prepare for your collaboration with a visual artist? Now, one of the things, it's a deep topic and it can be talked about endlessly. I'll just touch upon it in briefly. It's branding, and branding has everything to do with the visual language, as it were, of your band. So that includes things like the logo for your band or yourself as an artist, the kinds of fonts that you use in your posters or on Instagram. It even touches upon the types of language that you use when you're writing little comments or the descriptions on Instagram. So think of logos. We can think of famous artists like the Rolling Stones and that kind of stuff. There's maybe you know about Youngblood. He has very distinct branding in terms of the colors in the photography, the clothes that he wears, black and white stripes, the way he talks and writes in the comments. So that is all part of branding. It's a big topic. Now, a visual creative like yourself is not a branding person, so they won't be able to tell you what to do, but you do have some insight into that world, right? So what you can do as an artist is have a think about, what kind of fonts do you use. Do you have a band logo? Does it have to appear in a certain color all the time, or is there flexibility with that? Do you have rules about where the logo is presented in the artwork? Are there colors that you like? Oh, we're a metal band, we don't want pink in our artwork, right? It's stuff that might seem obvious to you, but if you don't tell the other person, they might not know. So they might listen to music, get a feeling from it, start creating something, and then afterwards you're actually like, no pink, right? I'm just saying stuff.
No, makes sense, absolutely.
So what kind of things would you appreciate from the musician in terms of guidelines when it comes to that kind of thing?
Well, quite often it's the artist will, I guess, have an idea of how they want it to be represented, but it's always good if there are some reference images. Perhaps there's Pinterest website where you can gather together a bunch of images. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be just maybe 5 images, but having kind of just the idea of direction of the world you want to create is already helpful.
So for example, if you see yourself, if you're in a metal band, then you could have images of industrial landscapes, urban landscapes, other bands that you feel that you're aesthetically similar to, so that you as the creative have an idea of the world that you inhabit. If you are a folk band, then you might have imagery of the countryside and farms and people with beards and lumberjacks and stuff like that, right? So that's now again, I said this is a big topic, branding. In the real world, as it were, the corporate world or the professional music industry world, there are brand managers that look after all of this kind of stuff, and they will call them a brand deck or a brand bible, and this will include everything. It will say, okay, the logo is this big, uses this colors, all the text that we use in all our posters and artwork uses these 3 colors, and it will say exactly which the hexadecimal, what is it called, for each color. It will have all these kinds of guidelines. Now you can do that yourself. You can create your own brand deck or brand bible, but at least have some idea about how you would want to be visually represented.
Exactly.
And then you can go that step further, as Izzy just said, creating this a mood board or Pinterest board for your artistic world, as it were.
Yeah. Or references to perhaps album covers that you like, so we can kind of understand where you're coming
well,
from.
that would be that's the next step, right? So not only doing it for your artistic persona or band as a whole, the next step is then, okay, a mood board for the specific artwork.
Maybe there are colors that you don't want to use or you do want to use. Maybe there is the feeling that you want to get. I think that's a big one. Like, for example, quite often when I would review, you want to go for a grunge, quite textured feel, and I thought, this is really good direction, because I know now I'm not gonna create, I don't know, just very minimalistic artwork. It has to be layers, it has to have that kind of textual approach. So I think that's very good to say the feeling you want to have within it, if there is something like that.
So the project that you worked on over the past couple of years was what I retroactively called One Track Mind, so a collection of 6 songs, where some of the imagery that I provided was posters and flyers from punk and post-punk and grunge bands from the 70s and 80s and 90s. Images and photos that were, I should say, textured, or so that were maybe captured on film initially, so they were grainy, not perfect. So that's the kind of photos I provided. I remember photos of grungy kids and punk kids and stuff like that. So those were kinds of the things that I provided. And then recently you did the artwork for 2 other songs. One was a jazz, it was a re-recording of Broken, which was done in a jazz style. So for that I provided some images from jazz records from I think it was the 50s and the 60s, which had these where the imagery was built, from my perspective, seemed to be built out of various abstract shapes and things like that. And so that's where, because the music was inspired by that era, that's what I provided you with.
That was really cool. That was really refreshing to have that as a cue, because it was okay, I can actually now experiment with something different. And I thought bold colors, red, black, white, I think that gave me a little bit more of a, again, different direction. So I knew, okay, I know what I'm working with now, and then I can customize it for the music. And I found, like, in this particular track, it was so many different maybe stories within one area, one space, and I think that's where it's so it was super helpful having that, really helpful.
And then the last single of mine was I'm Enough, and my direction for that was to the visual style should be reminiscent of 2 other singles that you've done artwork for, which is Look Back and Laugh and Locals in London. And those, the artwork for those was, I guess, a sketch, painted style.
Sketchy, but still a bit grungy. So having, still there is a narrative, there is, there's 2 people in that one, when similarly like in the Locals of London, or with Look Back and Laugh, we always have some characters in it. So sketchy, but again and mood. Like, I think it had such a particular mood, that song, so I wanted to represent that within the setting, you know, the metal, really feel good, kind of like a scene from life. Yeah.
So the reason why I asked for the new artwork to relate to those other songs is because the songs are stylistically, I guess, recorded similarly. The all three are acoustic songs with minimal production, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create visual relationship that matches what's going on musically, so that first of all, because it's just a fun thing to do, but also if thinking it from a marketing point of view, from creating a visual language for my music that people can pick up on, whether consciously or unconsciously. So as I said, it you know, I talk about it from both points of view, from a very pragmatic, practical marketing point of view, where I'm thinking about, okay, what kind of visual cues are people able to pick up on, but it's also just a fun thing to do, in my opinion. So I often talk about it in a very, what might come across as like a cold and calculating way, but I'm just looking at it from both perspectives. And so for example, if I go back to the very start of the music that I put out, the first couple of singles, it was actually artwork that I did myself. So what I did is I found some photos. I found a site where you could get photos that were Creative Commons, but it was not. There's different licenses. So you need to look into this. But there's photos that you can find and on certain websites, and it will say that you can use it for commercial purposes. You can reproduce it as many times as you want. You don't even have to give credit, really, although I do, like, wherever I can, I've given credit. Unfortunately, you can't do that on the artwork itself, because you can only put your artist name. Even the music distributors you can't just put on random email addresses and stuff like that. So but I do give credit in the appropriate places. But anyway, so I created that artwork myself, and you know, it's okay artwork, but those were based on photos that were somewhat manipulated in terms of filters, and those songs were punk indie rock songs that I recorded with the band. Then there was a song called "Is It Real," which is I think it's the first artwork that you did for me, which, because that music was a moody synth song, I wanted, and it was musically so different from what I'd done previously, I wanted something that was just very different. So I remember you actually came in, you took a photo of me, and it was an image that you manipulated and used some filters on and added like an urban cybernetic.
Your cue, I think, was Blade Runner. So that was really helpful. I was like, okay, but I wanted still for it to be a little bit of you in there, not taking everything from already created world by, you know, just cinematographers or directors from Blade Runner. It needs to be Cornelis, right? So I thought it would be best to have you in it. So I took photographs, and that was my approach to that artwork. And I think it really stands out being like the only photographic fully from everything else.
And the next one was Locals in London.
Yes.
And that's an simple acoustic song, very minimal production, and that's where you did the sketch.
Yes.
It's a city environment with some people in it, and there's somebody playing a guitar that may or not be myself. And there's a reference to this little cat, which might or might not be a reference to something in the lyrics.
There's two people there, one with camera,
Yeah.
sunglasses, one. I think that it's like a little bit of a bow to the lyrics. It's like, yeah, this is the I think there is a talking about someone visiting, going for a smoothie. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's so. I loved working on that one actually, because there was so much like storytelling in it, and I already the first time I heard it, it was just like, yes, I see it. I see it so clearly. That little corner in London where you have, you know, those beautiful lights, and I don't know, market with fresh food, people drinking beer. You know, summertime. So yeah, that was that was great.